Good day, Sir Pitello, and good day, co-students. This is our group reporting for General Biology. Our topic for today is all about the light reactions in photosynthesis.
Calvin cycle, sometimes referred to as dark reactions because it does not require light energy for their processes to take place, incorporates CO2 into organic molecules through carbon fixation, uses NADPH and ATP to produce carbohydrates from the fixed carbon, takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast, return ADP, inorganic phosphate, and NADP plus to the light reactions. 1. The light harvesting complex of photosystem 2 is responsible for photosynthesis. Photons are absorbed by a pigment molecule and passed on to the other pigment molecules nearby. In the reaction center, it is absorbed by the P680 pair of chlorophyll A and chlorophyll A. 2. The electron in this pair of chlorophyll A is raised to an excited state and is transferred to the primary electron acceptor. P680 loses its electron and becomes positively charged. This creates an oxygen atoms with the provision of light energy. It is then released outside the leaf through the stroma as part of the decomposition process. The excited electrons are then passed on from the primary electron acceptor to the electron carrier molecules through the electron transport chain until they reach photosystem. The carrier molecules involved are plastoquinone or PQ, a cytochrome complex, and plastocyanin or PC. Hydrogen ions are pumped across the membrane by ATP synthase, a protein that transfers electrons from the lumen to the stroma. At each transfer, the electrons release a small amount of energy. This energy is used to pump hydrogen ions across the stroma membrane. 6. Photons are absorbed and excited by electrons from photosystem 2 that are then passed on through the electron transport chain. Meanwhile, photons are also absorbed and energy is passed on from one pigment molecule to another until the energy reaches the reaction center complex of photosystem 1. 7. The photoexcited electron from the primary electron acceptor of photosystem 1 enters another electron transfer chain, passing the electron to an iron-containing protein called ferredoxin or FD. NADPH is then released to the stroma where it becomes part of the Calvin cycle.
Cyclic electron flow. Aside from the usual route of electron flow as described in the events of light reaction, excited electrons may take a short circuit route which utilize photosystem 1 but not photosystem 2. The ferredoxin goes back to the cycle and passes the electron to the cytochrome complex and to the PC until it reaches 700 chlorophyll instead of cytochrome complex and to the PC until it reaches 700 chlorophyll instead of transferring the electron to NADP plus reductase. Due to this event, no NADPH is produced but ATP is still synthesized. Also referred to as light-independent reaction or dark reaction, takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast and second stage of photosynthesis that is involved in the formation of sugar from CO2 using chemical energy stored in ATP and NADPH, the products of light reactions. The Calvin cycle. Important points to know. The sugar that is produced in the Calvin cycle is not the 6-carbon glucose that we are familiar with. This is formed later on. What is produced in the Calvin cycle is a 3-carbon sugar known as G3P or glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. The Calvin cycle needs to spin 3 times to make 1 molecule of Ge3P from 3 molecules of CO2.
Thank you to all our presenters. This time we have to at least have a quick recap to our topic about light reactions in photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is actually really a two-stage process, and the clue is in the word photosynthesis. Photo means light and synthesis means make. In order to understand photosynthesis, kailangan natin malaman at balikan ang kaalaman tungkol sa chloroplast kung saan ang reactions of photosynthesis occur. Photosynthesis consists of two primary steps, the light reactions and the Calvin cycle reaction. In this summarization, we will focus exclusively on the light reactions. The light reactions occur within the thylakoid of the chloroplast. Ang special pigments dito ay nag-a-absorb ng light energy at tinatransfer ito sa mas mataas na energy electrons at kalaunay nagpo-produce ng ATP at ang electron will carries NADPH. Tignan natin ng maigi ang thylakoid. The light reactions use two photosystems called photosystem 1 and photosystem 2 kung saan ito ay naka-embed or nakasubsob sa thylakoid membrane. It's important to realize that these photosystems are named for the order in which they were discovered, not for the order in which they participate in the photosynthesis process. The light reactions actually nagsisimula sa photosystem 2. Ang unang pangyayari na proseso ay ang photosystem 2 receives protons or light energy. This light energy ay lilipat papuntang chlorophyll reaction center, causing electrons in the reaction center to become energized. Itong mga electrons na ito ay maging energized that they escape photosystem and more to a nearby electrons transport chain. Samantala, sa pagpalit ng electron na lumisan sa photosystem 2, ang tubig ay nahati at nagre-release ng oxygen to hydrogen ions and to electrons. Ang unang set ng electrons continues to move down the electron transport chain, releasing stored energy as it moves. Itong enerhiya ay ginagamit para makabuo ng hydrogen ion gradient. Ang protina sa electron transport chain pumps hydrogen ions from the stroma into the thylakoid space. Dito nag-create ng high concentration of ions in the thylakoid space relative to the low concentration of ions in the stroma. This gradient contains a large amount of potential energy which is used by an enzyme called ATP synthase. The hydrogen ions flow down their concentration gradient through a channel in ATP synthase, releasing energy in the process. ATP synthase uses this energy to add a phosphate to ADP, forming ATP. Let's take a recap to our chloroplast. Remember from the beginning of this lesson that the light reactions produce both ATP and ADPH. Natunghayan natin kung paano nagpo-produce ang ATP. The question is, what about NADPH? Notice these electrons kung saan naiiwan ito sa photosystem 1, as photosystem 1 absorbs additional light energy. The electron again become energized, escaping photosystem 1 and moving down the electron transport chain adjacent to photosystem 1. The water is spilled again to replace the electrons that have moved from photosystem. At the end of this electron transport chain, the energized electrons and a hydrogen molecule are used to reduce NADPH to NADPH. Take note guys, the light reaction use light energy and water to produce ATP and NADPH. Oxygen gas is releasing as a byproduct. Together, the ATP and NADPH formed during the light reaction are used by the Calvin cycle reactions. So the plants really need both light and water to survive. Without these ingredients, the light reaction would not exist or it would shut down, installing photosynthesis and causing the plant to die. That's the important thing that we should remember. That's end our report and thank you for listening to us.